How's it going, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Done by 25 podcast. I'm Taylor Kay. I'm here with Nolan Detlefson.
Co-host, baby.
We're going to basically be diving into, on this episode, the in-depth story of how Nolan created 2 9-figure companies. We're going to talk about the struggles, the stress, the risk, all of that stuff, and then we're going to basically be able to get some advice from Nolan, hear how he did it and how he would recommend those of you guys listening that want to do something similar, how you guys can do it too, right? So Nolan, we got a lot of questions. You know, people listened to the first episode, your origin story. Got a lot of questions. Yeah, got a lot of questions from people wanting to know more in depth how you've been winning at a high level at extreme, young age. Yeah. There's not a lot of people that are 25 years old that have 2 9-figure companies, right? It's kind of a unique thing. So we want to talk about first, just like, obviously you went from getting into sales at 18.
Yep.
You quickly became one of the best guys in the industry of door-to-door sales. Mm-hmm. And then at that point you made a huge shift, which is shifts in business is a risk, right? Yeah. It's a massive risk.
Of course.
You're one of the best risk takers I've ever seen.
Yeah, appreciate it.
And so you took a huge risk of essentially investing your entire net worth, every piece of money that you've accumulated over the 4 or 5 years you were at Vivint.
Yeah.
You invested into your journey starting in solar without knowing anything.
Right.
And you didn't have any help. You didn't have a mentor, right? You basically figured it out as you went.
For sure didn't have any money.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of funny when people talk about like how entrepreneurs, like a good entrepreneur is someone that literally just jumps off a cliff and builds the plane as they're going down. Like that's you, literally.
Put the wings on as you're falling. Yeah.
Exactly. So you invest your whole net worth into launching Rise, which is now one of the largest solar dealers in America.
Yep. New Sun now. Yep.
Yep. Yeah. Sorry. Rise is, rebranded to New Sun now. 9-figure company. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of millionaires, people that make millions of dollars a year working for you or working with you.
Yep.
And then as of recently, which we'll get to here in a second, you again invested your entire net worth, millions and millions of dollars, took a huge risk. You didn't have to. You could have retired, really.
That one was crazy. Yeah,
and
the second one was a lot crazy.
You took another huge risk as of recent, just this last year, and launched what's now another extremely successful solar installation company called Luxor Energy.
Yeah.
So let's start from the beginning.
Okay.
And let's go into depth of just the craziness of the risk and the struggles, and then give advice on what you recommend to people how to win at a high level like you have.
Yeah, of course. So that was obviously, the majority of the questions that we got off of episode 1 going into, I guess now, was that, right? And it's funny, obviously we filmed the first episode, hour and a half, whatever it is, kind of going over my whole story. What's interesting about it is, the amount of feedback we got of people that actually just want to know how it got so big so fast. Because again, I didn't come from any money. You were there the whole time, right? You
saw the whole thing.
You saw it, man. You saw the trailers, you saw the cash payroll, you saw, the hotels, everything, you know what I mean? Yep. You saw that whole thing. So, I guess just kind of going back to the story, it's that the cool part about it, and I guess, the reason that you and I both decided to talk about this, topic specifically on this episode is because, again, it's the whole thing, right? Mark Cuban, has said often in the past that you only have to be right once, right? And that's the biggest key to entrepreneurship. And I think that, fully. I think that, dearly, everything to my heart, like that is it. It's 100% true. You have to be right one time. And what that means is it technically doesn't matter how many times you fail over and over and over again. You get that one hit, you hit big. Well, you can be set up, for the rest of your life. So the good news for me though, and, us and, everyone that works with us is I have been able to kind of, I don't even want to say see the future and pick the right thing, but I've definitely been, from a very young age, I would even just say curious person, right? I've been super curious. I've been super analytical. I've always tried to look at the future and kind of see things before it happens. As a lot of other entrepreneurs say, that catching trends early before everyone else is the biggest key to being successful. So anyway, about the story, right? With Rise, you were there. Going from alarms to solar was crazy. So the reason that we did it was because I remember, right, being a top rep at Vivint, ripping 5-6 alarms every single day, ripping 20 a week, 30 a week, 40 a week, right? Never did 40. My best week was 30, but ripping crazy numbers, selling 300-400 accounts every single summer, being a top rep. I was making good money, right? And what's interesting about making good money, I remember I was I'm 25 now. I was probably 21, 21 at the time or whatever, making 300 grand, 400 grand a summer. And as one of my business partners says now, Jordan Benning, he always says good is the enemy of great, right? And I think so many people get stuck in that being good that they never go for great. And to be honest, I was super close, man. I was just being completely straight. I was super close at 21 years old to just being like, cool, dude, I'm making 300, 400, 500 grand, right? And I can very easily just chill. I could chill out. Right. I could work, 4 months, make a couple $100 grand and, go travel the world. And that's what we did for, a lot of summers. We'd go, we'd travel, whatever. And then, he would always just talk, good is the enemy great, good is the enemy, good is the enemy great. And I'm like, okay, well, what the hell's great? Well, great's a lot bigger than that. You know what I'm saying? And so I remember I had a buddy. Long story short, I kept my blinders on at Vivint more than anyone. I was kind of the poster boy, right? Yeah. You walk into corporate, I'm on the walls, you see my face, everything, I'm winning all the competitions, whatever. And, our team's always smashed. We're beating everyone. And I had a buddy at the time who, his name was Matt Richardson, and he was my co-manager at Vivint in 2017, one of my first summer. And he was selling solar and he was making 10 grand a deal, right? And I was making $500 a deal, selling alarms. And I was like, that's 20x. Like, that's ridiculous. Right. So I'm like, let me check out solar. Anyway, long story short, I go out there, check out everything he's doing. I'm like, all right, I'm in. I go back to my partner, Jordan, and I say, who was actually my senior regional at the time. I go back to him and I say, hey man, I love you. I have nothing but respect for you. This opportunity has changed my life completely. I get it that if you want to stay here at Vivint in alarms, I want to work with you. I'm down to work with you, for you, whatever it may be. I want to work together on this, but like, I got to do solar. Right. And he's like, all right, well, we don't know anything about solar, right? Here you have stock, you have residual, you have stability, you have override. I'm like, good hell. So glad we didn't stick with that. But, he's like, you have all that. But you can try solar if you want. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. And so we kind of, worked like a combination or whatever, kind of doing both at the same time. But I knew nothing, man. All I know is I remember I went out my first day and I sold one. And then I talked to, another one of my good friends still to this day, CJ, CJ Adamson. I talked to him and I'm like, hey man, like I just sold this. Like, how much did I make or whatever? He's like, you made $8 grand. And I'm like, what the hell? You know what I mean? I was like, dude, I had to sell 16 alarms, which would take me 3 days, right? And I just made that in one day. I'm like, all right, I'm going all in. Well, fast forward, right, a little bit. Before you know it, man, I'm not weighing over my head. And I would love to talk about the story specifically, but obviously talking about the good parts. Long story short, we transition everyone, right? So I'm like, okay, cool. This is going to make, I'm making $8,000 a deal, $10,000 a deal. Cool. I got to get my guys to do it. Well, in door to door, one of the biggest things is, obviously the opportunity, right? And the problem we had in alarms, the problem we had in pest control, or the problem, they have in pest control or satellite or whatever it may be, is not everyone can sell from a super young age off rip, right? A lot of 18, 19, 20-year-olds come in. They don't necessarily make money off rip. So they struggle, they quit, they fail, they whatever, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, cool, let's change this around. So we change it to a whole setter closer model where, the less skilled guys set the appointments, the more skilled guys close the appointments. You go with a split. We start doing that, man, it takes off. Well, due to the fact that just straight up, we had so many people, I had such a big following, I had so many people wanting to do it, we're burning through cash real quick. You know what I mean? And again, you were there, right? Before you know it, we're going from install company to install company, trying to figure out which one sells the fastest. It's cash payroll. Again, our housing budget is near zero because we're just growing so quick. There's so much to float.
But also you were learning how to actually launch a business. You were a door-to-door sales rep that was learning how to launch a business by yourself.
Exactly.
Which is the craziest part.
Correct.
And I was there through the whole thing. I actually want to quickly tell my perspective on this beginning of the story, because it was my story even is kind of crazy how I got into working with you and specifically in solar.
Yeah.
So this was back in 2020. COVID's happening.
Yep.
I thought, me and a lot of other people thought that door-to-door was going to struggle just because people don't want you to come in their houses because of COVID, whatever.
Yeah.
So at the time, I actually started doing my own thing with insurance, which was phone sales. Mm-hmm. And I started building a pretty big team.
I remember this.
I remember you took me golfing, right? You took me golfing. You're like, dude, I'm getting into solar. I'm doing it. I know the money's crazy.
Yep.
You should do it with me. And I'm like, tell you what, bro. I was like, you go do it for 4 months, whatever it is. I'm gonna do my thing with insurance. I just took this hard test and passed it. Got my license. I'm already building this brokerage. Let me do my thing. You do your thing. Let's come back in 6 months. Let's see how you're doing. And if you're killing it, I'm in, right? Yep. And fast forward, you were learning things obviously through the first, 4, 5, 6 months, whatever it was. But I think about 6 months in, at this point, I'm doing well with my insurance thing, but I'm seeing you close 3, 4, 5, 6 deals a day, right? You're posting on your Instagram story a picture of you sitting at a dining room table
today
with a customer as they're signing documents.
Yeah.
And it's a different house every day, six different customers a day. And I'm seeing this and I'm like, I didn't know a ton about solar at the time, but I knew enough to know that you were making a lot of money per deal.
Yep.
And I saw that. I was like, dude, he's got to be making, just crazy money, 20, 30, 40K a day.
Yeah.
Type situation. Right. And I remember, I think I was DMing you. I was like, are you really like closing all these deals? Are you, how much money are you making? Right. You called me and you're like, Taylor, I have the solar money's real.
Yep.
I've made like $700,000 in the last 6 months.
Yep.
You need to come work with me.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't know, man. Like I'm down. Like let me see it first. Right. And at this point we had already worked for each other for years and you knew you needed someone with my skill set to come in and help you recruit and build and manage. Right. So you literally told me, you're like, Taylor, we're good enough friends. If you are down to make this commitment and come in and work with me, I'll give you $50,000 sign-on bonus cash money right now.
Right.
And so at that point, you flew me in, one of my top closers out at the time.
Yep.
I watched you close 4 days in a single afternoon.
Yep.
And we saw the whole sales process.
Yeah.
You didn't twist anyone's arm. It wasn't a high pressure sale.
Yep.
It was literally saving someone money on a bill that they're going to pay regardless. Nobody doesn't use power in their house, right?
Yep.
And so I saw you literally sell something that was almost effortless to sell. And you made an absurd amount of money doing it. And at that point, I was like, I'm in. I'm all in, right? I saw the scalability of it, et cetera. And at that point, yeah, dude, the story was crazy. I mean, you were a door-to-door sales rep learning how to scale a business because you had no help or assistance from anyone. You were doing you were pioneering it by yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of methods I think used in the industry at a wide scale within, dealers across the nation, I think originated from what you created.
Yeah, I never want to be, egotistical and say that like I created the setter closer model or, everyone's freaking copying me, all these different companies, whatever. But no, I do at the end of the day, I think there's definitely truth to that. Right. And again, we can talk about the story all day long, but I think more than anything, the biggest piece of advice I can kind of give with all of it is 100%, man. I was the rep and I was everything at the same time, right? I was the rep, I was the manager, I was the closer, I was the housing department, I was the payroll, I was the owner.
It's kind of funny because you were doing all those things while closing deals from 8 a.m. and then getting to the office by 10 a.m. to run an hour-long correlation and sales training and then going straight back to the doors, closing deals all day long. And it's so funny. It was kind of it was so jankety at the beginning. So jankety. I remember the $50K bonus you gave me, right? A sign-on or whatever you want to call it. You literally handed me a duffel bag of bricks of cash.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have an official payroll system set up.
Correct.
Yet at that time, right? Yep. And, but yeah, dude, we were, like you mentioned a little bit ago, we were sleeping in, we were in hotels at one point and you were just dropping 6 figures a month on hotel stays for all of your reps. We didn't have an office at the beginning. We were running correlation in a parking lot.
Yeah. I think the interesting part about the whole thing too is, like I said, we talk about the freaking, the stories all day long, and I think we should. But the most interesting part about the whole thing is, again, I just saw such a bigger vision that I was down to do anything. I was down to go all out, rain, snow, or sunny, right? To eventually obviously create what we have now. Yeah. And I think the biggest thing that entrepreneurs, struggle with, or visionaries, or sales reps, or whatever it may be, people that just want to freaking, blow something up, is they're really not down for that. Do you see what I'm saying? Like they're not, because you used to ask me all the time, you're like, dude, why are you putting yourself through hell? Why are you freaking, working 14, 16, 18 hours a day?
You took massive risks.
And why are you going bankrupt in order to freaking start this, in order to do it? And I just always knew in the back of my mind, I'm like, because there's a bigger picture, because there's a bigger play, and I can see it. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. I can see 2 years from now, 3 years from now, what it looks like. And what's crazy is, we're literally sitting here filming this right now, not that many years later. And dude, I got a 9-figure installation company. Right. You know what I'm saying? That it's paying out over $100 million this year. So, I think with that, right, with all the questions we've been getting and all of that, I think it's so funny because you can sit and you can ask questions all day long. We'll always answer the questions. But I think if you're not willing to take the risk, if you're not willing to step out, if you're not willing to be the dude that either everyone laughs at or everyone, doesn't believe in, or the amount of people that that freaking were like, what the hell are you doing, was every single person in my life. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part as well about a reason that people don't necessarily pursue their passions or pursue their dreams or pursue whatever they want is because they're just so worried about judgment.
Right.
They're so worried about judgment from their peers, their family, their friends.
I think people get complacent too.
100%. And that was good as the enemy, a great thing. I think people get complacent. I think, again, that they think their family, their friends are going to hate on them or whatever. But I will tell you from personal experience, I think my personal satisfaction from actually, we talked about on the last episode, the dog years were my favorite part.
Yep.
My personal satisfaction hasn't been, it's been the coolest thing of my entire life to actually try to figure it out. Do we change the pay scale, the setter pay scale 10 times? You know what I mean? Like we changed the override 10 times. We changed the process of how to sell an account 10 different times. We changed, first it was a PPA, then it was a loan, then it was an add-on, then it was a fresh door, then it's, all these different sales options of all these different ways to do it. That was what actually was the most fulfilling because again, it was accomplishing, right? And it's like Tony Robbins talks about it all the time that progress is happiness, right? And that learning never stops. So, it was definitely a crazy story, man. I mean, I think about it all the time. I was 60 pounds lighter than I am now.
Yeah. The amount of stress and pressure you put yourself under. I told you, bro, I was like, if I had the amount of stress and pressure you're under, I would have thrown in the towel by now, bro.
Right.
How are you surviving through
Right.
this? And you did literally dog mentality. You just went full savage mode, right?
Yep.
Now there's two things that we've talked about that I want to see if you'll go in depth and give advice on.
Go ahead.
One, how to be a visionary, and then two, how to be a risk taker, but not just a risk taker, but a calculated risk taker.
I think
those are two things you're very good at.
Right. And that was two of our biggest questions was people were talking about risk, calculated risk, all that. People saw me freaking, I don't know how long ago that was. A couple weeks ago, we were in Vegas and won the $400,000. Ever since then, people, have asked me about that. And I would not actually recommend that. I would not recommend, any type of Vegas gambling or.
Can you go in depth real quick on that?
Yeah. I mean,
just that weekend.
Yeah. I just started with 10 grand before we knew it was 400 and Aiden Ross, the whole thing. Yeah. It was crazy. Yeah. And then Anthony Pettis was next to us and there's all sorts of crazy shit happening with that. But
you meet a lot of cool people when you're gambling at high roller tables, you know what I mean?
Correct. Yeah. But no, to answer the question, right? So calculated risk is, I think, one of the most pivotal pieces of business that you have to be able to understand, analyze, interpret, and then obviously take action on. So let me give you the example, right? So the example, we were making $500 an alarm, right? And I've got another good example too. You're making $500 an alarm. Well, I looked at the fact that you can make $8,000 per solar deal. I'm like, okay, that's 16x. We're making 16x for every 16 alarms is one solar deal, right? That's just common sense that that's what you have to do. Do you see what I'm saying? So I remember people always tell me, they're like, they say it now, people in the alarms are like, but solar's harder, I'm like, dude, it's 16x. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's 16x. Like 16x is ridiculous. It's not the same number. It's not the same anything. You know what I mean? And so one, I think that's a big part is just like looking at the numbers, right? So I used to tell you all the time too, not going to mention names on this one, but at that company, at previous company at Vivint, dude, I remember there was just not enough override to go around, just period. You see what I'm saying? I had, 7 people above me arguing about $100 override account. Like
$100 a sale override.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm top rep in the company selling 300-400. They're 7, rich dudes, quote unquote, rich dudes are arguing about 30,000 or 40,000 for the year off of me.
Right.
It's nothing. You know what I mean? And so I think that is obviously just an obvious element where you have to change. Do you see what I'm saying? You have to change and you need to obviously look into, that calculated risk and obviously taking it. I also think with that, taking calculated risks is of course pivotal to your success. And my biggest piece of advice I can give with calculated risks when it comes to business specifically is you have to be in something that has extremely high profit margins. Because if you ever want to work for someone, you want to be a sales rep, that's fine. You can make money, right? But if you ever want to actually scale a business, like I look at, obviously our solar installation company now, and if we weren't selling $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 projects relatively easily, right? And having, we got reps that sell 10 of them a week, 15 a week, 20 a week, whatever. There's a lot of money. Do you see what I'm saying? That there's a lot of revenue. And that's, we talk about that, a 9-figure solar installation company is it difficult to, build and construct? Yeah, of course it takes a lot of time, energy, money, thoughts, it takes a lot of things, but not necessarily. Do you see what I'm saying? Because the revenue's so high. And when the revenue's high and the margin's high, dude, you have so much room for error. You know what I mean?
100%.
That's my answer to that
Yeah.
question.
And what I think is interesting is like for anybody right now in 2023, anybody that's in sales or in business and they're not selling solar right now, then they're in the wrong industry.
100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you're saying with profit margins, you compare solar to anything else. There's nothing that really compares, especially right now with solar being a literal gold rush.
Yeah.
It's brand new. It's brand new tech. It's at the curve of the exponential growth, right?
Yep.
Everyone's finding out about it. Everyone's learning about it. Everyone's realizing that it's a better way to get power for their homes. If you're not selling solar, then you're actually just wasting your time. You're losing an opportunity to make a lot of money.
Yeah. If you're in sales, I agree with that fully. You know what I mean? And if you look back, like obviously over time, past 10, 20, 30 years, whatever, it's like the dot-com boom, right?
Yeah,
Dot-com
100%.
boom, that's how you made money.
Yep.
Right. And freaking couple hundred years ago, California gold rush, right?
Yep.
So I think there's definitely opportunities. And I really do truly believe that solar is one of them just because again, we've created millionaires, dude.
Right.
We have, dude, I think we'll pay over 50 dudes $1 million this year.
Right.
Which is ridiculous. I mean, that's 50 million in itself, just to 50 dudes.
Right.
You know what I mean? So no, yeah, in terms of solar, I think, it's ridiculous as well. But
yeah, dude. So, when you went through kind of all the processes to launch Rise, there was a lot of crazy stuff we went through, right? One particular thing being you had a lot of people like stab you in the back and betray you. Try to take down the ship that you had built.
I remember that. Yep.
Can you go in depth on just kind of some of maybe this, whatever experiences you want to elaborate on and also give advice on how you overcame those situations and how you ended up winning? Because a lot of people wanted you to fail.
That's been a question, not even like for the podcast, but just in general, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of about all that stuff. And I'll tell you this. So this is what's interesting about business I've learned as well, is that when there's uncertainty in a new business, everyone thinks that they're the master. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. When I don't know what I'm talking about, well, how is someone going to follow me if I hardly even know myself? Do you see what I'm saying? Right. And so in the beginning stages of what's now New Sun and obviously Luxor, with the install company, there were so many people that they're talking about, well, this red line's this or this red line's that, or what about this install company or this PPA or this loan or this, dude, and no one knows anything. Do you see what I'm saying? And so it was very easy for people to want to, either run it themselves or do it themselves or whatever. But I think the biggest difference is, first of all, anyone can run a business, right? And anyone can run a business if they're willing to put in and realize what the hell it actually takes, right? And the reason that most people don't is because they want to that sales rep, right? They stay a sales rep for 300, 400, 500 grand, which is no problem. That's not an issue. But if we're ever talking about running a business, no, dude, it's 16 hours a day, 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. It's 24 hours a day until you figure out what the hell you're actually doing. Do you see what I'm saying? And if you want to talk about betrayal, though, the interesting thing that I've noticed about betrayal is it's obviously usually the biggest thing is ego, right?
Yep.
Ego, ego kills everything, right? Fast forward with a lot of people that have betrayed us. They either, fortunately, a lot of them aren't necessarily successful in the industry, or they're back with us anyway. But take away betrayal. What's the opposite of betrayal? Loyalty. Right. Loyalty, I think, in business is my favorite thing. Right. I value trust over skill any day of the week, and I think not only is, betrayal going to happen over and over again in all businesses, and people are going to fall out and people are going to want to do their own thing, whatever. I think the exact opposite, like that's going to happen regardless. That tears down companies. What builds companies is the opposite, and it's loyalty. But the interesting part about loyalty is it's never that, this guy's under this guy and I make you rich. No, it's that by staying together, we can build each other. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. We can capitalize on each other's skill sets. Yep. And as long as that split is always fair, as long as the, margins are fair, as long as, the value add is there, whatever. No, I mean, dude, look at the biggest empires. I mean, look at, Tesla, for example, right? Elon Musk is making all this money. The second highest dude other than Elon, I promise you that dude's not making 100 grand. You know what I mean? He's also making millions. Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Or tens of millions, right? So that is definitely the interesting thing about loyalty, when it comes to building businesses. Yeah. Understanding your place too. Right.
Yeah, no, 100%. And what I'll say about that is, I never understood when I was younger, how much I would value loyalty as I became an adult and got into business.
Yep.
I actually value, like you were saying, to some degree, I value in most cases loyalty over money.
Yeah.
Right. Relationships, loyalty, whatever.
1,000%.
And here's my recommendation to anybody listening to this that thinks to themselves, like, cause no one's giving advice right now on how to build a successful business. I want to give an advice to people that are listening to this that think to themselves, I don't have all the skill sets necessary maybe that Nolan has. Because dude, Nolan, I've always said like you're kind of a freak of nature, right? You have so many skill sets and different mindset traits that have helped you and allowed you to get to where you're at so fast. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't. I don't. Yep. Like I said before, if I went through some of the stuff you went through, I mean, there was times that like you literally made yourself go broke in order to succeed later.
You don't have to build $100 million company to be happy. That's the
right. 100%. And what I'm saying to you guys is, if you don't have all the skill sets that you need, at least right now, maybe later on the road you might, and start your own business, do your own thing, whatever. If you don't right now, though, find someone that does and be loyal to them. Provide loyalty and provide value and help them win. And I promise you they'll take care of you in return. And during that time, you first of all can get yourself into a really good position financially and in business, get all the connections, whatever. And then later on down the road, you can start your own thing if that's what you want to do.
I would also say that's one of my biggest pieces of advice when it comes to, because people, if they want to be the man or they want to whatever, like sounds good. Like you can be the man, but first to be the man, you got to learn from the man, right? Yep. And I still learn 24/7, right? I think that's one massive, thing overlooked in entrepreneurship as well is we still go to conferences. So we pay for conferences 24/7. Mm-hmm. These guys, Mark Cuban, whoever it may be, are just, they're ungodly more successful than I am. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. And I'll always, I will admit that for the rest of my life until it's not. And even then you still have all that respect. Do you see what I'm saying? So, my first, and that's what I loved so much about my first 4 years at Vivint at this alarm company, was, dude, I learned, the old CEO of Vivint, Todd Peterson, he was a billionaire. Do you see what I'm saying? He was a billionaire. He was probably one of the only dudes in door to door to ever even become a billionaire. So it's like, that was the company to work for. That's the dude you wanted to listen to. And what's crazy is advice I still think about almost every single day. Anytime that dude would give a speech, he would say two things. Like, Todd, what's your advice? He'd say two things. He'd say, one, build a good team, and two, think bigger, right? Fast forward to where, I'm at today, we're at today with having, all this, success or whatever, and having people that have success and all of that. Yeah, we built a good team and we always thought bigger. Like that's it. Do you see what I'm saying? And so, I think, I think having a good team and thinking absolutely as big as possible is how you're going to dominate in life at the highest level, whether you work for yourself or you work, for someone that's also kind of doing that same thing. You got to work in sales though. You got to work in sales.
I want to dive into one story in specific that, in regards to Betrayal and how, a really cool story that from my perspective, at least on how you overcame a crazy scenario of betrayal. Yeah. Right. So this was back in 2020. We're in the beginning stages of launching Rise, your dealer. And it was very much a rocky position because you're trying to close deals. You're trying to cash flow this whole operation out of your personal bank account. Things are janky. Right. Everyone's still kind of learning as we go. Right. We're still trying to learn how to scale it and train people, mentor people, etc. And, there was a handful of people that, that you had given a lot of authority to and edified and given, important roles to, who decided to low key behind your back, decide they want to take your ship, right? They want to take the whole thing over. And, it was kind of crazy to watch, from my perspective, how you handled it. Obviously it was probably stressful for you. I know it was stressful for me, right? We worked so hard to get to where we were and our ship was about to get sunk or taken over, right? And it was crazy. There was a day that was extremely pivotal. And I know you remember this. You literally went into correlation that day and you said, today I am going out in the doors and I'm going to outset all of you guys. And I want to set a standard of what's expected, right? We need to all be held to a higher standard and you guys need to get rich, right? It was like literally a Jordan Belfort Wolf on Wall Street speech. And that day you went out and you set like, what was it? Like 18 appointments or something crazy, right?
Just did what I do.
And from that point on, everyone understood that you're the guy to respect. You're the guy to follow into business. And in my opinion, business is war, right? When I look at business, I'm going to find the best people to go to war with. And I think at that point, everyone understood you're the guy to go to war with and to win with. And, at that point, I think the whole team set a record breaking number that day. And at that point there wasn't even a competition on who our people should work with and who runs the ship. Total domination.
I remember that completely and fully. And what's interesting about that is now obviously looking back, dude, you don't always have to be the captain of every single ship. Do you see what I'm saying? There's different departments, there's different layers, there's different avenues to each company. And when you really look at it and you want to be successful in life, it's like, okay, cool. Guess what? I'm, as of right now anyway, a solar god, right? I'm a solar god. I'm a freaking, install company god, whatever. Dude, I know nothing about software. I know nothing about, Facebook or Twitter or nothing about freaking owning a basketball team. I don't know any of that. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's, goes along, the quote or the lines of, you can be good at, you can't be good at everything, but you can be very, very good at one thing, right? Mm-hmm. That's 100% the biggest key is I want to pay, again, dude, my best friends. I work with all my best friends. And by default, it's like, okay, look, people don't necessarily like to always work with their best friends and pay their best friends crazy dollars or whatever, or say have them work, for example, like you say, you and my company or whatever, because again, it can go very bad, very fast if I'm not providing the value. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
As soon as you're making me all the money and I'm just chilling and I'm on the yacht and I'm making 20x what you're making and you're doing the work, and it's done in 2 seconds. Do you see what I'm saying? But I think that's one of the biggest keys in entrepreneurship is, or being like a real leader and a real man and like on a real mission is, no, dude, no one can say shit because I always work harder than everyone else anyway. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. I could have stopped working a long time ago, and it's currently 9:00 on whatever day of the week it is, right? Tuesday, and we're filming this. It's 9 p.m. right now, currently, active time. I was up at 7:00 this morning. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We've worked for 14 hours today. And so I think that concept and that principle can never be overlooked. I think it's one of the biggest keys as well. Everyone wants to be the man until it's what the man has to do. Everyone wants to be the freaking king of the castle until it's actually, what the king of the castle has to do. You were talking about your story, 10 minutes ago about these guys trying to leave, me coming in, me selling more than anyone, whatever, showing that, I dominate in all aspects. Again, maybe entrepreneurship, maybe dominating a company, maybe running and owning a 9-figure company isn't for everyone, right? That's not a problem. But what I will tell you is whatever level you're trying to get to, like, cool, you have to be that person to get to that level, right? People talk about this all the time. You give a homeless dude, unfortunately, $10 million, that thing's going to be gone in 30 days. Do you see what I'm saying? Because he doesn't know how to handle it. He doesn't know how to handle it. He didn't earn it himself. He does no financial literacy. And so it'll be gone, right? So in business, that's why I'm personally so committed to the game of business, because to me, it's a sport, right? But business is all a sport that I can continue to get better at. And again, there's people that are so much better than me. There's people that will technically be better than me for the rest of my life, because again, there's only one GOAT in everything, right? Yep. There's one Tiger Woods, there's one Tom Brady, there's one Michael Jordan. It's not LeBron, it's Michael Jordan, right? There's one, and that's it. And that concept goes for everything. Any sport, business is a sport. And that's why I also love the sport of business so much. And that's why I'm so committed to doing everything I'm doing. Cause it's a chase. It's fun. It's awesome.
Yep.
But yes, family and business, I think is pivotal if you can do it right and have a high profit margin business.
Pay them well.
Yep.
And work hard and lead them, right? Work hard and lead them in the right direction.
Pay everyone well. Yep.
Let's see here. What advice do you have to give as far as like something you've done really well is you're always betting on yourself, leading from the front and creating momentum?
Yeah.
I know you talk about momentum and the importance of momentum a lot. What advice do you have for people in regards to betting on yourself and creating momentum?
Betting on yourself, you have to have a plan, dude. So again, I'm trying to think, outside of the space, thinking outside of solar, thinking outside of an installation company. If I'm doing any type of, say, what all the kids like to do these days, freaking, drop ship, Forex, e-commerce, whatever the hell it may be. It doesn't matter. Say any one of those, funny things, for example, that everyone always talks about. How do you bet on yourself? Say doing, some type of e-commerce or literally anything. Well, if you want to bet on yourself, you have to know what the hell you're doing. Do you see what I'm saying? How do you know what you're doing? You come up with a plan way before you actually execute on it. Do you see what I'm saying? So for me, ironically enough, I probably don't even share this that often. Dude, I'm up at night, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. I can't sleep because I'm literally sitting here thinking like, okay, cool. How the hell am I going to accomplish what I'm planning on doing here very soon? Do you see what I'm saying? For example, when we went from alarms to solar, I find out it's, $8,000 a deal as opposed to $500 a deal. The rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the month, I'm sitting here thinking, okay, this pays 16x, but now how the hell do I capitalize on it? Do you see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I can go just knock, individually or whatever and try to sell this product, selling solar as opposed to alarms. But what does everyone say? Everyone says it's harder. Okay. So you can't sell as many. Okay. So how do I make it easier? Well, my skill set is closing. My skill set isn't knocking a bunch of people's homes that don't answer and getting rained on and I'm already past that. Do you see what I'm saying?
Right.
Okay, cool. So why don't I outsource that? Why don't I find someone else to do that? Why don't I hire this dude who couldn't do the sales because, again, he's just younger and doesn't have the skill set and whatever. Why don't I take this guy? Why don't I put him in the position and say, hey, dude, go say this pitch. Find me someone that's paying, overpaying on their electric bill and is down to talk to me about potentially saving money. You go out and you do that. He knocks 100 doors. He finds, 5 people, and I closed 4 of the 5, and we profit split and whatever, and that's it. And we both make way more money, right? So when it comes to betting on yourself, well, yeah, I had a plan. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I think people oftentimes look at, betting on yourself. It's like, Nolan, you either, you have so much confidence or you, like, how do you accomplish these things or how do you make these successful companies or whatever? And it's like, dude, there was a plan. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not like I just woke up and I'm like, all right, it's time to freaking spend every dollar I have. Do you see what I'm saying? It's extremely calculated. It's extremely thought out. And I think that any person, and even when you get in sales, man, I remember this was always my biggest piece of advice to people. It still is, not learning, how to sell door to door at a high level, which is a very important skill set in business, just period. You have to be knocking the door, going through the flow, going through the process. And when it goes wrong, you have to consciously think and ask yourself, why did it go wrong? Where did it go wrong? This was going great. And then all of a sudden I tried to get their social security number and put it in the iPad to sell them and they freaked out. Why did they freak out? Right. And did I have a stutter in my voice? Should I have looked down? Should I have looked at him? Should I have looked at the wife? Was it the wife that came in? What was freaking, did the dog bark at the wrong time? Like, what was the situation? What made that go wrong? And so I remember when I first started in sales, that was the very first thing I did, right? The very first thing I did was every single day I would freaking get in all these houses or whatever. And anytime it went wrong, I would write down, okay, cool, it went wrong at this part, right? And something super simple in sales that's like, okay, cool, you say this, I say that. You say this, I say that. You say this, I say that. Did you realize when it's selling something, say door to door, for example, there's a finite number of things they can say, and there's obviously different variations, but there's a finite number of objections they can have. And once you just memorize those answers, cool, say them in the right manner, and you'll sell them every single time.
Exactly.
Do you see what I'm saying? So when it comes to betting on yourself, to answer your question specifically, it's calculated. Do you see what I'm saying? It's all calculated. It's all thought about. It's all done consciously. And it's really just a matter of working hard. Do you see what I'm saying? And figuring it the hell out.
Right. Something I think is interesting about what you were just talking about with sales and how you learn how to get better. I always compare sales to a chess game, right? You go into a chess game and you make a move, your opponent makes a move. You make a move. The more you practice and play chess, the more you're going to learn the strategies that your opponent can use and how you can combat those strategies. And ultimately the goal is to put your opponent in checkmate, right? Same thing with sales, right?
Dude, everything is chess. Sports is chess. Do you see what I'm saying? Sports is chess. Business is, it's the same damn thing, dude. It's like, take basketball, for example, right? I hit this crossover. He goes this way. I go that way. Okay, cool. Now I can either go forward or I can go back. If I go forward, this dude's going to come up. If I go back, well, it's a harder shot. Do you see what I'm saying?
I remember what I was going to say, by the way.
Go ahead.
It's when last podcast we were talking about how when people first get into sales, that's when they quit the most. Because they don't give it enough time to learn how to win the chess game.
Correct.
So give it time, and eventually you're gonna get good at the chess game of sales, and you're gonna win every time.
I like that. I mean, and for example, right, you've been recruiting, right, for our sales companies forever, right, and you've been able to get to the top of recruiting and recruit crazy teams and people and whatever. And we set up funnels 24/7 to recruit people and whatever. And yeah, it's a skill set just like anything else, right? And I always also go into our sales meetings and I say, hey, look, like when I'm training people, and obviously a big part of business is dropping your ego. I say it 24/7. The next sales meeting I go to, I'm like, and I really want to talk to someone. I say, hey, look, dude, you freaking look like you bench 400 pounds. I don't bench 400 pounds. You look like you freaking, play basketball. I don't play basketball. You're better at this. Cool. I'm better at this. Do you see what I'm saying? And that game is sales, for example, not in an egotistical way at all, but it's like, dude, if I've been attacking something since I was 18 years old, what have you been attacking? You've been attacking the gym? Cool. You're bigger than me. You do tennis? Okay, cool. If I want to learn tennis, I'm going to talk to you. I want to learn how to shoot a free throw. I'm talking to Michael Jordan. I'm not talking to my random wrestling coach. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you got to go to the right people. And I also think that's a massive, massive key to success in business specifically is making sure that you're actually learning from the right people. You're talking to the right people. I think that's been some of our biggest reasons that we have been able to blow up the dealer as big as we have, the install company as big as we have. It's because, I, as well as our team, have been attacking it obsessively for an extremely long period of time to where it's almost been known. It's like, yeah, you want to learn sales, talk to Nolan Detlefson, talk to the door-to-door king, right? It's like, these people, whether it be, say, someone like Grant Cardone or Gary Vee or whatever, they're known for certain things. And that's why they're able to continue to attract that talent and blow up at a crazier and crazier level.
Yep.
And I'm telling you, man, I could tell you 1,000 reasons why capitalism exists, and that's just another one of them right there. It's like the rich get richer, the better get better, and we see so many people coming in and out of sales, coming in and out of any type of opportunity, and they just never give it more than a 30-day or a 60-day or a 90-day commitment, and that's why we see so many people just fail, unfortunately.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, like you were talking about before, is finding one thing and going all in on it, right?
Yes.
And unfortunately, a lot of people in life don't make a lot of money, and I think it's because they picked the wrong thing to go in all in on, right? Some people pick a really shitty 9-to-5 that they hate, and they just stick with it out of complacency, out of the fear of taking risks, out of the fear of the hard work that it would take to learn a skill in a different direction, right?
Fear of failure too.
I mean, the list goes on. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I think that for me, and I know for yourself, I'm glad, and I know you're glad that we took the risk of, at a young age too, of learning how to develop a skill of sales and building businesses. And we've given it all we have and we got good at it.
Yep.
Right. And anybody can.
I agree.
I have one last question for you, and then we'll wrap up this podcast, but just for future reference, for fun, for the audience, for us, for when we want to look back at this podcast 10 years from now.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Where do you see yourself in 10 years from right now, and how do you think you'll get there?
Oh, that's a great question, and I think I already know the answer, man.
You've got a pretty good track record so far.
Yeah, appreciate it. People used to ask me all the time if, like, Nolan, you're going to become a billionaire, right? And I'm like, dude, do you understand how much money $1 billion is? Like, you understand that a billion is 1,000 million, right? And like a million's like pretty good, right? And so I used to say all the time, right? Like, no, I'm not going to be a billionaire. I don't want to be a billionaire. There's no point of even like having that goal, right? And what I've realized, though, if I'm being completely honest now, just strictly due to my obsession with business and dominating business as a sport and looking at it as a sport, my obsession with it, our obsession with it, in all reality, I think it's kind of inevitable, right?
Yep.
But I don't care. Do you see what I'm saying? Right. I don't care about the money. I don't care about $1 billion. I don't care anything past $100 million or set. Anything past 30 million or set for the rest of your life, right? But where I ultimately see, myself, hopefully, right, say even 10 years from now, is absolutely 100% inspiring and impacting as many people as possible to not necessarily even just dominate business per se, but just dominate really anything they want to in their damn lives, man.
Right.
And you do need money, right? Like we talked about it before. Anything you make less than $70,000 a year, or recent Harvard study said that 5-10 years ago, whatever. Now it's 150 or 200. If you make less than that, you have financial stress, you have whatever. You have to eliminate that, right? But then after that, I really do think that just waking up and chasing a passion every single day is pivotal to your life's happiness, success. I believe it's your calling. I believe that's everything, right? And I guess for me, so I think my actual calling from life and happiness and all of that is dominating the sport of business, not for personal reasons or even at a personal level, but at a scale of the masses, right? Of providing business value and providing real value to as many people as I can in a world and in an opportunity that wouldn't exist without me, right? Yep. For a perfect example, what we kind of have going now, right? In the most humble way possible, a lot of the dudes we have making all the money they have, all the money they are in solar and in even just our dealer and even our installer, man. I don't believe that without, a guiding force and a guiding person and the company and the foundation and obviously the work that I've put in that, and again, just in all humbleness, they obviously do the work too, but that they would never be in that position. Do you see what I'm saying? And I take more happiness and pride and satisfaction out of knowing that, like, damn, dude, I helped two 23-year-olds that are two of my best friends now to this day and probably always will be make $3 million this year. Like, prior to them meeting me, they're making $150,000 a year. Right. Are they putting in the work? Beyond belief, right? Are they putting in the work? 100%. Are they the most coachable, hardworking dudes I've ever met in my whole life? Fully. But without that vehicle, without the opportunity, and without each other, do you see what I'm saying? We would have never been able to create a lot of the stuff we've created. So to answer your question fully, in depth, I think the answer is I would like over the next 10 years to create as many of those types of relationships as possible to where I can help two 23-year-olds make $3 million a year, freaking stuff money in a teddy bear, give it to their mom for Christmas, and change their entire family tree, right? I want to do that as many times as possible with as many people as I can, not even in solar, not even in door to door, just in business in general, in life, and create as many connections as possible and have the best damn time of my life doing it.
Yep. Awesome, man.
That's the point of the podcast.
That is the exact point of the podcast. We're going to wrap this podcast up. Appreciate you guys listening. If you guys are watching this on YouTube or actually anywhere you're listening to this, if you have questions that you want to ask us specifically, go to our YouTube channel, Done by 25, and leave a comment on one of our podcast episodes, and we'll be reviewing those questions and answering those questions in our future episodes. But yeah, this podcast, the whole design of this podcast is to literally tell our story, tell Nolan's story, how he's winning at a high level, and basically give advice to you guys at home. So continue listening to our podcast, like, subscribe, comment, follow us on Instagram. Nolan is at D2D.King.
Door King, baby. That's
and
me.
I'm Taylor K. So shoot us a follow, leave us questions and comments, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Appreciate you guys tuning in. Excited for the next one. Let's get it.